Bet horse racing on DRF Bets. We'll match your first deposit of $200. Get free expert picks and past performances, plus weekly cash back. All from Daily Racing Form, the most trusted name in horse racing. Hi, everybody. Dan Illman, Mike Beer for a Kentucky Derby prep recap. We'll take a look back at the Sham Stakes. We're going a mile at Santa Anita on January the 8th, a two-turn mile. Only 5 entered the Sham. Bob Baffert had 3. And Mike, as we were joking in the stakes preview, usually the angle is the other Baffert. In this case, it was the other Baffert in Reincarnate. We break from the gate. Reincarnate is post position number 3. Program number 4, and he goes to the front.
Yeah, I mean, this was one of the things I think you had to concern yourself with going into the race, Dan. Baffert felt like he had this field over a barrel. The question was who was going to wind up on the lead, and as it turns out, Reincarnate, who, by the way, isn't the fastest of the 3 Baffert horses in here, he clears the lead. His 2 stablemates to his inside have no interest in going for it, and Reincarnate wires the field.
He will take pressure from the outside from Spun Intended. Now, Spun Intended will pull up in the stretch. It's a non-life-threatening injury, but you'll notice that he will pull up. In behind's the big favorite, National Treasure. His first start as a 3-year-old. He concluded his juvenile campaign with a 3rd-place finish in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. What did you think about his trip?
I found there to be little to complain about as far as this trip goes, Dan. Obviously, they weren't aggressive with him from the gate, and that was obviously the plan here. He's sitting in behind the eventual winner all the way around the track. Is there a point here as they come to the corner pole where he's looking for a room and doesn't exactly find it? Yeah, I think that is something that happens to him here, but he's working pretty hard trying to split. He can't get the split. We had to cut the replay there a little bit. At the 8th pole here, he's clear. He's just grinding on. I still felt like he had a shot to get there, Dan, and he's just not finding enough.
And Reincarnate is game to take on Newgate, the runner-up, who made a wide bid turning into the stretch, also trained by Baffert. Reincarnate at 16-1. National Treasure for a first start back as a 3-year-old. I think some folks are going to look at it as a disappointing effort. But again, it's only January. It's something to build on.
Yeah, that's probably the way that you're supposed to look at it. I mean, let's be honest. He's a horse who still has plenty to prove, Dan. He broke his maiden first time out. He hasn't won since. He has, held his own in some pretty good races. He certainly did in his final 2 starts as a 2-year-old. He ran okay here. Maybe it was just a race that he needed. And, listen, as much as I felt like, and maybe you disagree, why don't you talk about his trip? I didn't really feel like there was that much to complain about, but maybe it wasn't ideal for him.
I didn't think there was that much trouble. I thought he ran fine. It was a little bit disappointing, I guess, that he didn't get past the 2 longer priced horses, but I thought the trip all in all worked out for him. He had his chance, loomed at the stretch, and just sort of finished evenly. I think he can do better than this, and I think he will do better than this down the road. Newgate ran second in here. Frankie Dettori took him to the far outside in the stretch. He was last on the backstretch. Coming into this race, I was a little bit concerned whether Newgate is truly going to be a 2-turn horse down the road. And I still have those questions.
Yeah, maybe that's what they were trying to find out with him, though, Dan, because for his first 4 starts anyway, 3 of them sprints, he had, sort of been showing his speed a little bit and racing up with the pace. Dettori rode him like a turf horse here. He took him back to last right from the start, came with the old in out to the stretch, and he actually ran on pretty well. In some ways, it's probably the best race Newgate's ever run.
Speaking of turf horses, that's where Paxawallop likely belongs. He's run some very nice races on the turf. They gave him an opportunity here on the main track, and I just don't think this is his surface.
I agree with that 100%. He was keeping up in attendance anyway with the leaders. 3 wide second turn, all in at that point. Could not go with these horses and fell back out of contention. He's a turf horse.
And thankfully, Spun Intended, even though he had to be vanned off the track with an injury, it's not a life-threatening injury. Thankfully, Spun Intended, it appears at this juncture is going to be okay. Let's talk a little bit more about Reincarnate. He is a son of Good Magic. Juan Hernandez got this horse right to the front, and he was able to take him home. A 95 Beyer speed figure. And Mike, Baffert's treated this horse like he's going to be a longer distance animal since day one. 5 starts, all races around 2 turns, and he's yet to finish off the board. And it's nice to know that a horse that does have this sort of stamina also has tactical speed.
Yeah, those are both really good points, Dan. Listen, I wasn't taken by this horse leading into this stakes race here. He was stepping up off of a maiden win, which I wasn't thrilled with, and I really felt like he was way up against it, even in this kind of a field, which was not a strong one. But listen, he took another step forward. He earned a solid figure for this race, and you're right. More than anything else, I think what you like about him is he does kind of give off that impression that he's just going to run all day.
Purchased by this partnership group for $775,000 as a yearling. His dam was a stakes-winning synthetic sprinter at 6.5 furlongs. The dam, I have to overemphasize, a grade 2 placed miler. But the way this horse goes, the way they've handled him, you have to think extra distance is going to work. We'll take a look at the prices. The longest shot on the board, if you can believe it, a Bob Baffert trained 3-year-old in a graded stake at Santa Anita. Reincarnate pays $35 to win. It's Baffert over Baffert over Baffert, 4-1-2, and any one of these three horses could be looking at races at Oaklawn Park, where Baffert has dominated the 3-year-old division over the past several seasons, or perhaps the Santa Anita Derby later in the spring.